Welcome to this explainer. Okay, to kick things off, I want you to picture a really stark, incredibly cold scene. We're talking a freezing evening in London, and the year is 1895. Sitting completely unnoticed on a street corner is this starving 6-year-old boy. His clothes are basically just rags. He's absolutely freezing, and people are just walking right past him. Nobody stops, nobody helps. And that little boy's name? Charlie Chaplin.
So it really begs the question, how did a boy with absolutely zero money, no home, and a lot of the time literally no food become the most famous person in the entire world? I mean, it sounds completely like fiction, right? But I really want to emphasize just how impossible this rise actually was. He didn't just start from zero, he was starting from below zero. He had absolutely nothing, and yet, as we'll see, he ended up having absolutely everything.
Looking at his timeline, it's just this relentless, breakneck progression. We go from that freezing evening in 1895 to him landing his very first theater job in 1903. By 1910, he's leaving for America, and boom, by 1914, he's entering Keystone Studios. It is a crazy, rapid ascent from just pure, gritty survival to the absolute precipice of global stardom.
Section 1. The Boy from the Streets.
You know, to really understand the legend of Chaplin, we have to understand the boy first. And Charlie's early life was just unbelievably hard. His dad left the family when he was super young, and his mom, Hannah, well, she was a singer who tried her best to provide for Charlie and his brother Sidney. But tragically, she got sick, she lost her voice, and ended up being taken to a hospital. So with no parents around to protect them, 7-year-old Charlie and his brother were sent to what's called a workhouse. And if you're not familiar, a workhouse was a totally grim, bleak place for poor and orphaned kids. We're talking brutal hard labor, scrubbing floors, washing heavy clothes, all combined with practically no food, freezing rooms, and rock-hard beds. It was just dark, daily physical suffering.
But, and this is the incredible part, right there in the middle of all that darkness, a spark ignited. Charlie realized he actually had a superpower: pantomime. Whenever the other boys were feeling hungry and miserable, Charlie would just start making these ridiculous faces. He'd walk in this silly, exaggerated way, pretending to be a drunk guy or a frail old man. And it worked. The boys laughed. For a brief second, they completely forgot their hunger and their sadness. By making them laugh, Charlie finally felt important. He felt truly alive for the very first time. Comedy literally became his ultimate survival tool.
Section 2. A New World of Opportunity. So fast forward a bit to age 14. Armed with this incredible knack for making people laugh without even saying a single word, he actually lands his first real theater job. He travels all around England, really mastering how his body could speak way louder than his mouth ever could. Eventually, he boards a ship headed for America. And American audiences, they absolutely ate it up. They loved his energy and his fast, super smooth movements. He's touring all over the country, and in 1913, this amazing thing happens. A comedy filmmaker named Max Sennett catches his act, walks right up to him, and offers him a staggering $150 a week to make movies. Now, Charlie had literally never touched a camera in his life, but back then, that was unimaginable wealth. Obviously, he said yes.
But it wasn't exactly smooth sailing right away. Charlie actually faced massive culture shock walking into Keystone Studios in Los Angeles in January of 1914. See, in the theater, which was the only thing Charlie knew, you act big. You have to move big so the guy way back in the very last row can see you. But in movies, with a huge camera right up in your face, you've got to act way smaller and much more natural. Charlie quickly realized his first few films, well, they weren't that great. He had to completely relearn his entire approach to acting.
Section 3. The Birth of the Tramp.
Now, Charlie was definitely not the kind of guy who just wanted a director telling him where to stand. He really wanted to create his own character. Well, one day, a director gave him exactly 30 minutes to throw together a funny costume, because they had to start filming right that second. So Charlie frantically runs to the dressing room and, just purely by chance, starts picking out items that completely contradicted each other. He grabbed a jacket that was way too tight and paired it with pants that were impossibly baggy, oversized shoes, but a tiny little hat. He snagged a cane, slapped on a little mustache, and wow! When he looked in the mirror, this totally mismatched, magical assembly birthed an entirely new person. And the moment he walked out onto the set, everyone just burst out laughing. It was absolutely perfect. This character, the tramp, was poor but incredibly proud. He was small but super brave, sad but undeniably hilarious. And you know,
I think everyone fell in love with the tramp because everyone understands that struggle of feeling small, right? He wore beat-up clothes and had empty pockets, basically mirroring the real little Charlie back on the grim streets of London. But the thing about the tramp was he always tried to do the right thing, and he never ever gave up. He just kept walking forward, and man, that gave people a whole lot of hope.
Section 4. The artist takes control. As the tramp exploded into this massive global sensation, Charlie wasn't content just acting in front of the lens anymore. He was an absolute sponge, learning incredibly fast, and he had this burning, obsessive desire to write, direct, and just completely control his own cinematic destiny. By 1915, and keep in mind this is just one single year after he started in film, a major movie studio sent a letter to his modest apartment offering him $1,250 every single week, plus a massive bonus. Just think about that stark juxtaposition for a second. From a starving kid in a brutal workhouse to $150 a week to now over $1,000 a week just a year later. It's wild. But for Charlie, true control finally came in 1919. He sat down with three other absolute titans of Hollywood, Douglas Fairbanks, Mary Pickford, and D.W. Griffith, and together they totally upended the industry by creating United Artists. This was a revolutionary game changer. Up until this point, the big studios held all the cards. They controlled the actors, the money, the art, everything. Now, Charlie and his partners broke away, giving themselves absolute freedom to make genuine art, instead of just churning out quick entertainment.
And with that total freedom, he delivered some absolute masterpieces of human emotion. You have films like The Kid in 1921, which was really one of the very first movies ever to seamlessly blend out-loud laughs with real, genuine tears. Then, in 1925, The Gold Rush, which has that legendary crazy scene where he's so starved he literally boils and eats his own shoe like it's a gourmet meal. People laughed, sure, but they also deeply felt his pain. And then, jumping to 1931 with City Lights. The whole world had already moved on to talking movies by then, but Charlie boldly stuck to his guns. He proved, without a doubt, that a silent, expressive body could tell a far better, far more emotional story than speaking actors ever could.
Section 5. Politics, Controversy, and Exile.
So the poor boy from London really did have it all now. His own studio, total creative freedom, and just unimaginable wealth. But as we know, the world was changing rapidly. And this once universally beloved entertainer started stepping into some really dangerous politically charged territory. In 1940, before America was even at war, a lot of very powerful people explicitly warned Charlie not to make his next film. But he did it anyway. The great dictator was incredibly bold and highly political. Charlie actually played two completely contrasting roles, a poor, kind-hearted Jewish barber and a cruel, powerful dictator. And at the very end of the movie, Charlie drops the comedy completely and uses his massive platform to deliver this incredibly moving, impassioned speech about freedom, kindness, and humanity.
Now, the film was a massive success at the box office, but it definitely made him some very powerful enemies. Newspapers started writing these articles labeling him a communist and a traitor. Following that, the U.S. government actively began investigating him and his political beliefs. This whole tense situation finally climaxed in 1952. While Charlie was over visiting Europe, the American government officially canceled his visa, basically telling him he was not allowed to return unless he agreed to submit to questioning.
As you can imagine, Charlie was just shocked. He was hurt and he was really angry. He had lived in America for 40 years. He built his entire legacy there, and now he was just being cast out. So, in response to this forced exile, he moved his family to Switzerland and delivered this incredibly heavy, defiant quote. He simply said, "I don't need America. America needs me."
Section 6. A Legend's Final Bow.
Fast forward 20 years. After spending 2 decades living a really peaceful, quiet life in Switzerland with his wife Una and their growing family, all that old anger had finally faded away. He was genuinely happy. And then came this truly magical night. In April 1972, an 83-year-old, white-haired Charlie Chaplin finally returned to America to accept a Special Academy Award in Los Angeles. And wow, when he walked slowly out onto that stage, the entire room just stood up. They cheered and clapped for what felt like forever. People were openly shedding tears in the crowd. All the bitter politics, all the anger, it was just gone, forgotten. That night was pure healing. America finally remembered the sheer joy of the tramp. After that beautiful moment, Charlie returned home to Switzerland, eventually passing away on Christmas Day in 1977 at the age of 88. He left behind this truly monumental legacy. giving the world the universally recognized iconic character of the tramp. But more importantly, looking at his life really brings our entire narrative full circle. He proved, beyond any shadow of a doubt, that a starving, freezing 6-year-old boy sitting totally ignored on the streets of London can actually achieve true immortality through his art.
So I'll leave you with this one thought to chew on. If a boy with absolutely nothing to his name, no home, no money, no food, can manage to change the whole world using just a mismatched costume, a flimsy cane, and a funny little walk, what beautiful thing can you create from your own struggles? Thank you so much for joining me in this explainer. Keep walking forward.